And greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Anime Anticlimax on SeptumSin versus the world. I am SeptumSin, and I am here with Kotobuki Jake and Idono/Embria Arts, and eventually Roger, for this month, last month's Anime Anticlimax, which is kind of a round out end to Jacob's birthday stuff. And he got to choose. So tell us about your really, really well thought out selection.
Yes. We are looking at an anime from 2005, the latter half of that year, from Studio Shaft, called Pani Poni Dash, which IMDb describes it. Rebecca Miyamoto, an 11-year-old child prodigy, accepts a teaching job at Momotsuki Gakuen, Peach Moon Academy, a high school that can best be described as bizarre, which actually is a fairly descriptive summation. This is a show from Shin Onuma, who was also the series director for last month's choice, A Fairy Tale of the Two, basically, which I did not think about that when I chose this, but as soon as I found out, I was like, that sounds fun. Let's explore this completely different anime from the same person that did the last one.
Oh, they're identical.
They're so much similarity. It's just so much. But let's go ahead and start with our impressions of this one. And I know damn well this is not the first time either of you have ever seen this, but we'll start with you, Brittany. What are your familiarity with this one, background with this one, and what are your impressions?
My impression is it's an anime. It's meant to be a comedy, although I have laughed, I think, once throughout the entire series when I wasn't dozing off to it at times. But at the same time, I would keep getting jarred awake by the voice casting and that ADV had done. I did not watch this in sub simply because I don't know if Crunchyroll had it in sub, so it was kind of the only choice, I believe. And some of the acting was ear screeching, in my opinion. It's not bad. The animation's decent, but the fact that the screechiness and you add in about 3 jokes going on at one time, it's just a confusing mess. That doesn't seem to understand what the concept of timing is in a joke. But I could be wrong. I mean, I could absolutely be wrong. Other people's opinion, but mine,
Yeah, and actually, I did not listen to the English dub, but it has some pretty decent names in the cast, I guess. Got Brittany Karbowski, Monica Rial.
It's pretty much the entire cast that we know of from Funimation, from ADV that went over to Funimation.
Right.
And while they're good in some points in this series, it's just like ear screeching for some reason. And I wish they did not screech. Nowadays, most of these actors know to calm down and not screech. But such is the case of an early 2000s anime.
Right. All right. So does that wrap up your initial?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about you, Brandon?
Well, this is, as you said, not my first time. I thought, you know what? I'm going to try and get an anime as it came out in the States. And by coming out in the States, that was physical release because what was streaming back then, really?
It was 2005.
Pirate Bay and things like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Nya Torrents was one of my favorites.
I will say ADV had this on cable streaming on their little anime sort of on-demand collection.
But I was a big fan of strange stuff. I still am. I mean, shoot, love Bobobo. I really liked Excel Saga. A lot of the those I like Narima Daikon Brothers, though not as much as Excel Saga. Pretty much anything by that particular that particular creator. I also like Negima and some of the strange stuff having to do with that. So I had a lot that there was a lot to this that looked particularly fun to me because it was combinations of stuff that I already liked. It was strange. It had elements of a lot of different series that I did like. So everything on paper says that this should be a series that I really, really like. And I was wrong. I am actually quite surprised by that because there was a point where I looked at the series and I just said, this is too weird even for me. Because even Bobobo, as weird as it was, felt more on center with what it was wanting, with what it wanted and where it was going than this one did. And because of that, I felt like a lot of the jokes and a lot of the stuff fell flat all throughout the series for me. And I decided to keep it because I went ahead and I paid it, and I was doing that rate of like $20 to $25 a volume as it came out. So I paid quite a bit for the full series when it was out. And of course, I bought the full series again recently for $25. Slight decrease in cost. And I still don't love the series. I don't really. I like it enough at pieces, and I think there's some pretty cool animation choices that I liked. I mean, you got some. I think it's Studio Trigger that did the animation here too, wasn't it?
I would have been before Trigger was Trigger, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same basic company.
Yeah, some of the same staff. Yeah.
So
let's see. The main production was Shaft and Gansas.
Yes.
You've got in between animation by a number of studios and key animation by a handful. UFO tables involved there. Zebek, couple others I recognize.
Yeah,
and I get it. And I think that this series has a lot of stuff that gets mirrored later in Zetsubo Sensei. But Zetsubo Sensei, oddly enough, felt a lot more grounded. And I did feel it definitely knew exactly where it was going. So in a way, I feel like this is kind of a precursor to that series, whereas I really like the latter series, even though you kind of need a book of references to really get everything, and a very, very fast reading ability. This one, yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, it's like I said in comments before between us going on and on about, it's the ADHD of anime, in my opinion.
It doesn't know what it wants.
Yeah, it doesn't know what it wants. It constantly is putting at least one or two jokes at the time, and they're not landing as well because you're trying to focus on all the other stuff going on, and it's. I mean, at least you named Bobobo. I mean, at least Bobobo ran with one joke at a time.
Yeah,
they were stupid, but they were funny. And I mean, that's the case with most of these kind of shows, is they'll run a joke at a time.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I do agree with on that note is that Zetsubo Sensei does this as well. A lot of gag comedies do this in America as well. You'll see a visual gag, but like usually with America, shows like Futurama or Simpsons or Family Guy or whatever, there'll be a sight gag that may or may not set up a scene, but then they move on to the next gag. But here, anytime there's an opportunity for a sight gag, they try to cram in 2 to 4 of them.
Yeah.
And Zetspo Sensei does that as well, but I feel like they did it better.
Well, I mean, most of Zetspo's gags were more so that the people would miss were more so the wordplay.
Well, yeah.
And whatnot, as we addressed in our review of Zetspo Sensei.
And I think it moves from joke to joke to joke.
Yeah.
Well, they did something that you see a lot here, but again, you see it done more here, and I think it's done more effectively in Zetspo Sensei. Is a lot of this stuff takes place in classrooms, which means blackboards or whiteboards. And if there's a blackboard or a whiteboard, there's stuff written on it.
I mean, I'm trying because what IMD or what Mal's gone through, a lot of people say if it's in the same concept of Azumanga Daioh and Lucky Star, because they're both high school anime, particularly female cast, in the same scenario, but both Azumanga Daioh and Lucky Star are tame compared to how much they try to shove down you in this.
Azumanga Daioh definitely was referenced a lot in this, as well as, I mean, the other character was God, what is that character's name? It started with a C.
You're talking about the one that they called Chio Chichi in the.
It's her father's there. God.
Yeah. Yes. Chio got an upgrade from Chio's father to God. Yeah. Well, as for me, I honestly do not remember the exact circumstances that I'm pretty sure Brandon introduced this to me after he introduced it to Brittany. I could be wrong, or
I might have introduced it to Brandon first.
It may have gone the other way. I'm not sure.
I will say this is one that I watched it first on my own,
right?
Because I remember that because I actually ordered it from Joe. Who, it was weird. And Joe was able to get it for me one volume at a time. So, yes, I first watched it on my own. That one I can say for certainty.
Okay.
You might have told me about its existence, but
I may have saw it through, at the time, it was the anime, channel on, I think, Xfinity. What is it now? Xfinity, formerly Comcast. So, that's how I would have digested it.
Right. So, I don't know who first put it on my radar. I do know that this one was well known to our group. I seem to remember, I can't remember what George's take was on it, but I seem to remember that at least the 4 of us definitely knew of the show very well. I remember watching it and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. This was at one time one of my favorite shows. And I know some of the reasons why. And the fact that it was completely batshit insane was a minor frustration on those early viewings, but it definitely was something that I liked. Like, Brandon lucked the hell out by trying to introduce me with shows like Excel Saga, because it's really easy to send someone running screaming for the hills with a show like Excel Saga. But I also enjoy insane stuff under certain circumstances. And I will admit that when the show came out, I was a lot more into that style of humor than I am now. Going back and watching this show now, I do have a very different take on it. I still like it. I think a lot of that is probably nostalgia. I would strongly disagree with the idea that the show's not funny. I think that it is funny, but I think that there are so many gags that I fully agree with the concept that they were throwing anything and everything they could think of at the wall to see what would stick. And some of it does not land. There are jokes that are duds. There are jokes that are straight up offensive. There are things that I don't think I enjoyed from the word go that now I look at it and go, yeah, that's even more cringe now. Or that's even more a waste of my time than it used to be. You know what I mean? Like, and we'll probably mention a few of those as we go.
I wouldn't say any of the jokes are cringe that I could see.
The character of Zula is pretty cringe.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between the character being cringe and the show being cringe.
Well, yeah, definitely. No, what I'm saying is, you with a show like this where you're and I will say this is one thing this show kind of has in common with South Park. I have always given Parker and Stone credit for being equal opportunity offenders. Like, I feel like they seriously go out of their way to try and find something that's uncomfortable for everyone. And I feel like they were trying to do that with this show. Like, but it was more of a gag comedy than any sort of real social commentary, but they definitely fit some of that in. But mostly it was just about, let's see how much crazy shit we can do and get away with. And I also know that this one has probably more of a backstory than people present would like when it came to our history with gaming, because Blaine was a direct outgrowth of one of the characters of this series. And to this day, I still am very amused by Ichijo.
And I still hold it against the series to this day.
I know you do. I know you do. But I don't care what y'all say. I think Ichijo is freaking hilarious. She's evil.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't think anybody's saying there's not jokes here. This is a comedy series. They're jokes. I'm asking, why am I not catching them? Because clearly, to me, a lot of these jokes just fall flat. And it's like watching an Amy Schumer, and I'm going to use her name on this Amy Schumer comedy show. All right. Most of her jokes just fall flat.
And humor is very, very, very subjective. That is one of the tricky things about humor, is very subjective. Everyone has their own kick. And this is one of the parts that hasn't aged as well for me. And honestly, Brandon, I suspect this might be part of your issue with the show. I'm a little surprised you didn't come right out and say it. But the old and it's also interesting, the connection here with Zetsubo Sensei, because I have long maintained that Nozomu Toshiki is basically a grown-up Japanese Charlie Brown. He's basically Charlie Brown. And the whole premise of Zetsubo Sensei is, in very many ways, a Japanese equivalent of Peanuts, in a lot of ways, just with older characters. So this one brings Charlie Brown to a mind for a very different reason. And that is, the older I get, the more I believe that, as much as we all grew up on Peanuts, we all love it, I really believe that the show taught an entire 2 to 3 generations of Americans that bullying is okay, that it's good. You know, I feel like Charlie Brown and Lucy is one of the most hateful, evil bitch characters in all of media. I despise Lucy. And honestly, this is a show, Pani Poni Dash leans just as hard into bullying as Peanuts does, if not harder, probably much harder. And
there's that scene I still love from Family Guy where he actually beats the crap out of her. And forces her to let him kick that football.
Yes, this was good.
One of the few good things that Peter ever did.
And then Ray, who we see there, the dark-haired one, she straight up is a bully. Like, I like Ray a lot more than I like Lucy. But that is her whole shtick in the series. She has flashes of humanity, which is more than I could say for Lucy. But most of the show, I would say probably 30% of the jokes, and I just pulled that number out of my ass, but it seems reasonable. 30% of the jokes in this show are either someone picking on Becky, someone picking on Misosa, someone picking on Himiko, or Becky picking on anyone else because she's a little brat.
Well, I mean, let's explain the characters because we haven't really gone into them.
Well, yeah, I was still doing the that'll wrap up my initial. Yeah, let's go into character.
So you have the main character, Rebecca Miyamoto, who is a 10-year-old genius who has already graduated college and is now a teacher in charge of high school girls.
Mm-hmm. MIT grad.
MIT grad. Yeah, and such.
Yeah.
I always laugh that every time a college in America comes up, it's always MIT with Japan.
Right.
That's for those who want to know what happened to the end of Oran High School. If anybody wants to know what happens at the end of Oran High School, all the students, including the main character, go to MIT.
Yeah.
That's the end of it.
And of which?
All the male characters plus the main character go to MIT at the end of high school.
Yeah.
So that's how that series ends.
Which series? I missed that.
Oran High School.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I could see that way, especially the who was the treasurer again? That guy, or is that the one I'm thinking? Whatever.
I don't remember them by names at the moment, but I know Haru because Haru is the main character, I believe. It's been a while since I've watched that one.
Haruhi, I believe.
Haruhi.
You know, a series that came out around the same time as this that has a similar feel to it to me.
Yeah.
There's a gag series called Gyayu Manga Biori, or Gag Manga Biori, that is actually more off the chain than this is. The only major difference is it was kind of episodic, so the jokes kind of went from episode to episode, but it was crazy. I did love that series, but I felt like that and this shared DNA at some level.
One that definitely shared DNA with this, it's the same director, and there's a lot of similarities, was the remix of Negima.
Negima.
They did tone down the gag nature of it. It still is a gag series, but they're not throwing 100 at you at a moment. It's more like you said, you might have 2 or 3 core gags per episode.
And I do like that series. It's one I really liked.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And also, this director was one of the directors on Baka and Test, which was gag-ish.
Yeah, but Baka and Test had a running plot with their gag.
It did.
That's what made it funny.
It did. It had a lot more of that. But
hey, we drag it out long enough that Roger can give his first impression.
Oh, yeah. Roger's here, huh? Hey, Roger.
Hello. How you doing?
Good. All right. So, Roger, what was your? Was this your first time watching this show, and what was your take on it?
No, I had Poni for many, many, many years. This is actually the first time I actually watched it. So this is my first time.
Okay. All right. And did you have any initial thoughts, or?
Well, it is not a bad anime. It's simply not. There's quite a bit. This one particular one is not particularly for me though. I don't really have any much issue with the voice acting or the character designs. It's just that it's a different kind of anime. Back when I was younger, you used to call something called cute girls doing cute things. And this kind of reminds me strongly of that. It's an episodic type of anime. It is entertaining. It did give me some chuckles out of it. So it definitely wasn't a failure. I just don't think that this particular anime is going to be for me.
All right.
I think that's the best gist of it all, because I've said this many times before, that I don't believe that there's any such thing as a bad series, a bad movie, a bad anime. It's just that there are anime that are not for me, and there are others that this is their favorite anime, for instance. So
I can agree with that. It happens.
So did you watch Poni Poni Dash or Poni Poni Pani? Because there are two different anime.
The Poni Poni Dash.
Okay, all right. Want to make sure.
About 26 episodes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Just want to make sure. I was
Yes.
So we're not, because the other one we'd be like, we don't know what you're talking about.
Well, Brittany brings up a good point. Poni Poni Poemi is probably even more batshit than this one. But it is very, very short. It had much less opportunity to run off the rails. Or at least to drag us too far off. Well, let's go ahead and continue with, we just talked about Becky. She hates being called Becky, by the way. And of course, the girls call her pretty much everything but Rebecca. We have the Himiko Katagiri, the Cowlick girl, who is pretty easily one of the biggest airheads in anime. And that's saying something. She is described on Wikipedia as wastefully energetic, which is a good description.
yeah.
She pretty much says Maho at every opportunity for no real reason.
Like magic.
What's up?
Maho means magic.
Yeah.
It does, but that not the way she uses it. And she also tends to say things like Omega or something along those lines, like just like really, yeah. We've got Ray, who we briefly touched on. Ray Tachibana is the, I guess you could say, token mature girl in the class. She is a bully. She is also works in a Chinese restaurant, so she apparently is often smells like Chinese cooking and is well known for being a good cook. And she has a particular attack on Becky where she will put a sticker of an eye on her hand, and that just freaks Becky out, makes her go ho ho in the corner, ho ho, like crying. I'm not making it say ha ha. That did not. We have each. What's that?
I just want to say something real quickly. Apparently this anime has a lot of wordplay that doesn't make sense to Americans, right? But one thing I like to point out on Ray Tachibana, traditionally Tachibana last names are normally kind of like the people, the characters that represent change or some sort of evil stint or something of change. So anything with Tachibana only means is a bad nail. So apparently this is where the eye kind of comes into place, where she's supposed to be more mystical, is because she represents change.
Right. And I think at one point she does show an appreciation for mysticism at the very least, but nothing so much as Ichijo-san, the class rep, which you really have to wonder how any class would choose this weirdo as their rep.
Out of fear.
She is a force for chaos.
I just assumed that she volunteered for it, and they're just like, okay.
That's probably it.
I stand by the concept is out of fear. They probably saw her do something really crazy and stupid, and everyone's like, nope, she's in charge.
Well, like she does things, like she makes friends for Masoza that are these super creepy things built out of soda cans. She frequently tries to poison Masoza and occasionally her fellow classmates. She created the Ichijo Festival, which is its own thing that becomes big later on. Her sister apparently lives down her shirt. She just... And again, I say again, I love this character.
And she has that recurring gag where she makes things worse for them
Yes.
in multiple ways.
She did this twice in the show, and I tried to do it in game, and it didn't go over well.
Well, you have to have willing accomplices. It's sort of like with the Maison Ikoku aspect of the character.
Yeah,
You have to kind of have willing accomplices, and we were not willing accomplices,
right.
to the
It's
strange.
Tom, if I remember correctly.
And but I look at her as actually kind of a chaotic evil type character.
Oh,
because a lot of her choices are evil by nature. They just are strange.
Oh yeah, definitely. We also have Miyako Uehara, who is typically referred to by names like Bookworm and Forehead, which pisses her off. But she does have a very large, very shiny forehead, and a lot of visual gags play off of that. Apparently, she can shoot freaking lasers from it. And she's just mostly a very sour character who's usually reacting to other people. Kurumi Momose is the, quote, plain girl. She's the normal girl who suffers a great deal of self-doubt because she's surrounded by crazies. So the normal girl doesn't stand out very much. Even her brother is so impressively indolent that he somehow stands out more than her.
And they repeated that gag in Zetsubo Sensei.
Right.
If I recall correctly, they have that normal character in that one.
Well, yeah. Well, in that one, though, the one who's really invisible is the one who, I guess he's normal. But when his hair comes off and you see his forehead, then suddenly everyone sees him. We have Sayake Suzuki, who is known as number 6, Rokugo. They never explain in the anime why, but according to these notes I'm looking at, apparently Igarashi gave her the nickname in the manga, and that it just kind of stuck. She apparently was the 6th member of her family to be in Igarashi's class, and so she was number 6. But she is basically the, quote, good girl. She is super positive, very happy most of the time, and she always calls things of the year. Like, this is the such and such of the year. That's like her catchphrase. And then there's Masoza, the bunny, the almost literal punching bag of every other character in the series. And I will admit, if there's one running gag that rarely made me do more than chuckle, even the first time I saw this show, it was Masoza. If there's anything that made me chuckle, it was probably his interactions with Lord Cat.
I was gonna say that's probably the only thing that I can think of with that character that I enjoyed, and even that got a little bit old towards the end.
Yeah, Masoza is way too big of a character for the amount of humor that he actually brings to the series. In my opinion, I bet I probably wouldn't get a lot of pushback on that. But
yeah, and there's another gag with the bunny, with them not being able to hold stuff very well.
And that was funny for a couple of times, but they really overplayed that one too.
I mean, I kind of like that he hooked up with the salamander because he gained unofficial endangered species status.
So I wonder what that thing was. What is that thing?
Yeah, they mentioned it briefly when he first appears that he's a salamander, and they don't say any word afterwards.
Well, there's also a hint all throughout, because the salamander is always using the word Karo, which in anime they always seem to have frogs saying Karo.
Karo.
Frogs and salamanders are closely related, so I guess that was their hint of letting. But it's most of the animal characters are far from realistic, and the salamanders.
One of these days, we need to hit Sergeant Frog.
Yeah,
that's an eventful one too. There, that might be one of the long ones that can come up eventually. But I figure the S is probably loaded down.
Oh, it's on the list to randomly hit. It's because they actually, Discotech did finish releasing the entire series.
Well, as Brittany said, though, with the law of averages, there's probably a lot of S's.
There's a lot of any of these.
Hey, we hit Q and we only had 2.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. They weren't many choices.
So the main characters, as we said, is Class 1C. We've got 3 other classes. I'm not going to go into too much on them, but 1A is run by Miyuki Igarashi, who is the drunk teacher. That's pretty much her shtick. She is the burnt out, always reeking of booze teacher who doesn't really give a shit anymore. We've got Shun Momose, who is Kurumi's brother. We have the twins, Yuma and Yuzuko?
Hold on. Let me give you a proper. Yuma Kazuaki.
Yuma and Yuna, sorry.
And Yuna,
Yeah. Yuma and Yuna, who are always referred to by Igarashi as twin or twin A or twin B, always pisses them off. We've got Yuzuko Kurusu, who is a cosplay character, but not the cosplay character. She's just like in the drama club, I think. Or is she in the television club? One of them is
she's the drama club.
Yeah.
She's the one with the cat ears, isn't she?
No, she's the film club. She's the film club. Sarazama.
The one with the cat ears is the one in the
right.
drama club.
And then we have Hikaru Nikaido, who is basically, well, okay, no, she's not in the anime. So that's pretty much the anime characters from 1A.
No.
And the twins, incidentally, they're not cosplayers, but they are big on costumes. And
actually,
so they only show up for that.
Actually, a lot of those characters do show up quite a bit throughout the series, especially the magical girl and her friend. And which, oddly enough, for a while, she was one of my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just stopped being the magical girl, and then she was just she just stayed as her alternate for the rest of the series. And I was like, okay, I've lost interest in you again.
Okay, so since you skipped ahead, I'll go ahead and skip ahead to 1D, which is the class headed up by a man known only as Old Geezer, and he is a very
he has a name. It's Gigi.
Well, yeah, Old Geezer, basically. He is just the creepy old man to the nth degree, basically.
Could be creepier.
What's that?
Could be creepier.
He could be creepier, but he is basically just an old man who's way past retirement age, who basically is like certain people. I will not name names at the moment, but certain people that in the public sphere who are remaining in their posts only to screw with people. That is his position. And I will admit, one of the funniest things he ever does is when a person falls asleep in his class and he is whispering in her ear, Kaede, 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 go home.
Go home.
And she's having this horrible nightmare because of it. I just thought that was funny. But it was cruel, but it was funny. Brandon was talking about the character Behuimi, who, yes, she is the soothing magical girl, Behuimi, until she has a crisis of identity and basically drops the whole magical girl shtick and goes from being a super positive character to a pretty negative character. But this is also around the time we're introduced to Medea, and we find out that she and Medea have a long and mysterious history together on the battlefield, apparently. And Behuimi does have skill. She does have some depth of character, but I will admit she becomes much less funny after her change. We also have Tsurugi Inugami, who basically exists to be a foil to Misao Nanjo. Nanjo is the Ojo-sama character who is very much a snooty rich girl, but also obsessed with animals, who she gives really weird, crazy names to and always brings them to school. She's always surrounded by animals. And Inugami basically exists to be the serious foil to her shenanigans. He is probably one of the most straightforward characters in the whole series. And then there's Akane Serizawa, the cosplay girl from the drama club, who has cat ears and is always crashing other classes dressed as Roboco or other random things. And there's a running gag that she probably doesn't wash her outfits often enough. And people basically can smell her coming. Akira Miyata is clumsy girl. That's her whole shtick. She is clumsy girl. And she is part of the intelligence club committee, but along with the one I already mentioned, Kurisu, and then Hibiki Watanuki is the leader of the intelligence club. She's in class 1B, which is headed up by the gym teacher, Saotome. And Saotome is a kinder, gentler version of Shigeru from Fruits Basket. You could hear him humming, high school girls, high school girls. And that would be half his character right there. But he's actually probably the most decent of the teachers other than that. He's just a gym teacher. He's not, he's definitely not on Becky's level in most ways. But in addition to Watanuki, you've got Suzune Shiratori, who is a tall, freakishly strong girl who's always hanging out with Otome Yakiyama, who is a very short girl who's very self-conscious of her height. Shiratori is also a full-on bully, probably worse than Rei, and is always doing what she calls Suzune Chop, which, because she's so freakishly strong, does a lot more damage than she probably realizes. There's Yankee, who is the fat, snake-tongued character who always says .com, and Zula, who is like a muscle-bound black girl who looks like a dude. And again, those two, I personally think, are two of the biggest duds in the series. I never laugh at either of them. Again, I don't know what y'all think, but my opinion. And that's really about it for the major characters in the school, I think. There are others that show up from time to time, but they're the main class characters. And then you have the weird stuff. We have already talked about the giant salamander, who is repeatedly referred to as a protected species. Normally, I like when this kind of stuff happens. I loved how Azumanga Daioh had an Iramoti cat that was one of the major characters of the series. But the way the salamander is used, it was a mixed bag for me, at least. We have Ichijo's little sister. Apparently she has two that show up in the manga, but only one of them shows up in the anime. And she is weird. There's the Tanuki, who shows up, and there's a running gag about how the Tanuki is great at copying body structure, but cannot do faces to save its life. And then we have Lord Cat. We've already mentioned Lord Cat mostly lives in the soda machines and frequently assures Masoza that it's the body heat, yeah, which is creepy on multiple levels. And when his younger brother joins him, he's like, it's younger brother flavoring, yeah. It's like, and then there are the aliens, which apparently take the form of Star Trek: The Next Generation for the last couple episodes. And before that, they're just these weird, almost look like tops,
Like burger buns.
Burger buns. That's a good way to look at it. The captain is borderline incompetent.
As most captains are portrayed.
Yeah. And he has various subordinates who range in levels of competence. A running gag, a big part of the plot of the series, such as it is that the aliens are studying Rebecca Miyamoto. She is the randomly chosen sample of an Earthling because reasons. And they are supposedly studying her without getting involved. But as we go on, we find out repeatedly that the captain has made contact more than once. But what's more, Ichijo and her sister can see the aliens. They are fully aware that they are being watched. They're the only characters in the series that are fully aware of this. And in fact, they show up on the spaceship at some point. And it's partly because of this combination of the alien incompetence and Ichijo's mysterious powers that the Ichijo Festival becomes the final boss at the end of the series, basically. So that's pretty much the character rundown. Did anyone want to have anything further to add on the various characters?
Not really.
Well, there is an interesting. I think a lot of these names have something to do with the character. One was the Toshinigi Inugami,
right?
The guy that likes pets. Well, his first part of his name is Inu, which means dog, and Gami means spirit. So dog spirit. So a dog god or dog spirit. Mm-hmm. So that's just one of those things that I've been noticing.
Right. Apparently, Behuimi name is a spell in the Dragon Quest series. We've got
media as well.
Yeah. The which one's that? She is
she's the one in the maid costume.
Yeah. No, I was saying which one is in terms of what is the reference exactly. But trying to see. Yeah. There are a few. I will admit, normally I get really into naming conventions and I'm very interested in them. I didn't really pay much attention to this here, but there are a few that are that have some interesting names. Of course, in the case of Becky, Rebecca Miyamoto, a lot is made of the fact that she's mixed race, and they don't really mine it too much for jokes, but they do make reference to it here and there. But that her name, of course, follows that very much so. Honestly, I am a little surprised that that Himiko's name is not a play on crabs. I mean, that would have made perfect sense, but no. But like Kanagiri instead of Katagiri, something like that, Kanagiri. But such as
huh?
So, is there any reason, like within Japanese references, for body heat temperature drinks?
Well, I mean, Japan is far beyond our capability, and machines that handle our products, vending machines,
Right.
and they have hot drinks available in soda machines in Japan. It's one of the few places in the world that does have that I can think of. I don't understand why we don't do that here in the U.S. Makes no sense. But yeah, I mean, probably the concept of that the cat is warming up the drinks with their body heat versus, a machine when you open up the vending machine. It's an oddity. It's a weird thing. But
Right.
yeah, that's I think that's why it's saying
Well,
it's the
weird's
body
definitely par for the course here. So
Right.
it's my body heat,
Right. And you could tell that Masoza thinks it's weird. Like he doesn't necessarily want warm soda, but he learns not to fight it. But yeah, that's an interesting thing. So in a show like this, it's probably a fool's errand to try to do a point-by-point plot description. If only because most of the episodes have little plot. There usually are gags endemic to each episode. Like there is the camping episode, there is the festival episode. There are episodes that do center around a particular theme. But for the most part, even a gag that runs the entire episode is not necessarily going to happen in everyone. Usually it is more rapid fire, short gags with a few longer running ones. A couple of long running gags that are set up in the series are things like Becky's research room, which is really just a room she goes to get away from everything, where, of course, the students from 1C follow her, and she might as well just stay in the classroom. There's the introduction of the giant salamander, certain characters like that. The whole alien thing is sort of a slowly building plot thing, but it's not really usually central as much. There are a few, but mostly toward the end of the series, they try to do an overarching episode where the aliens are saying, oh, there's an impending doom headed toward Earth. And suddenly things start going crazy. And we have like 2 episodes where the weather patterns are all over the place. But even there, right in the middle of it, they decide to do a period episode that has nothing to do with the main plot. It's just...
They do that in several anime.
Right.
I've noticed. So they like to do a period episode of the characters playing period characters.
Right.
In this case, they were like doing a play or something like that. Or they reference it. Definitely fourth wall.
Well, and there is a lot of fourth wall breaking in the series. And again, Ichijo usually seems to be the one aware that scenes are either being filmed for a play or a show or whatever it is that they're doing. There'll be a lot of scenes where you'll see it'll cut back and you'll be looking at a sound stage and everyone's on the sound stage and you've got like grips and gaffers and all that stuff. And sometimes you'll have Ichijo either under the floor or off to the side watching the action. And it's like, that's a running gag that goes throughout the show that occasionally gives me a chuckle, but I don't know that they really mind that as much as they could have. But yeah, they have that period one where basically Becky plays a commissioner who puts out a so-called how tax, a crying tax on tears. And Zula and Yankee are the ones going around collecting the tear. What am I trying to say? Extracting taxes, I guess, which really meant throwing people in debtor's prison, basically. It was an interesting episode, but like you said, there is that tendency to want to do a period piece in these kind of shows. But like I said, we do have the mysterious desert island episode. We do have the school festival episode. We do, at the very end, have the pool episode, essentially. We do have the... what was the one I just said? The camping episode. there are a number of themed episodes that are like par for the course for high school anime, and this show puts its own interesting spin on them. The school episode, of course, is the one where we are introduced to the Ichijo Festival. She keeps mentioning it when they're trying to talk about what they want to do as a class. She keeps going, Ichijo Festival, or like a vote for Ichijo, that sort of thing. And it turns out to be like a box of Ahimi oranges that people go into and don't come out of.
Or dragged into.
Exactly. And then later we find out that the alien captain had the box in his possession, and he put it out on what he thought was recycling day, but they changed the schedule and he didn't realize it. And it was actually hazardous waste pickup day. And because it was picked up on hazardous waste pickup day, it apparently morphed into this world-altering, world-ending thing. Which, yes. And I did mention in our recent discussion, for those who watch our Inside Movies to Galore discussions, and we watched, and who joined us for Dave Made a Maze, that was one of the reasons I wanted to watch this show, was while that was still fresh in my mind, to go back and revisit the concept. Because it's a very similar concept in a lot of ways, too.
Dave Made a Maze. No, there's a wonderful one.
But... And apparently I missed the game where Brandon subjected the group to the Ichijo Festival. Unfortunately.
The cardboard box dungeon. I think Brittany was there for that one.
Oh yeah. We kept trying to steal the Taras t-shirt.
I didn't run that one. I just gave the random generator to somebody who ran it.
I know I ran it at least once.
All right. I know that by reputation. But actually, that may have been my introduction to the show, was hearing about that. I don't know. But anyway. So again, I don't even think I'm going to try to do a point by point.
I don't think you really could in this series. I mean, it's
right.
The more notable episodes is what you could make a point of. But I mean,
right.
They're very forgettable episodes. I'm still sitting here trying to remember some of them, and I'm like, don't remember this one.
And I was going to say, does anyone have
episodes?
What's that?
I remember pieces from episodes. Like I remember the Magical Girl episode where they keep telling her that she needs to transform or show magic, but she's not showing any proof of magic because otherwise she'll have to go back to the magical kingdom. And then I forgot the rest, actually.
Well, yeah, no, I remember the Magical Girl one. That's one of the ones I've actually was able to remember better, along with the period piece. I honestly did not pay much attention to the festival, honestly. I really didn't. It had gotten me to the point where it's like, this is just sort of a numb anime to watch. Just put it on there and just have it in the background type situation. And that's about it.
Right. The one that I always remembered, I think probably early on, was the camping episode. I think I remembered that one pretty well. And yeah, that was the one where Ichijo produced the salamander as I believe it was just Becky and Suzune. Not Suzune. The plain girl. Kurumi, sorry. I think it was just Kurumi and Becky ended up in a group together, and Misozo, of course, got roped in. And to help balance things, Ichijo brought the salamander to them, and this will be in your group, you know. And that one, I think, was the first time we saw Ichijo's Indiana Jones outfit, which might have been one of the reasons I remembered it.
Oh, there's a ton of sight gags that I picked up on.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, is it funny when you just have a character suddenly transform into another character from anime or pop culture?
Right.
Maybe a little, but it's not a gut wrenching laugh. It's kind of like, oh, I know that.
And I'll admit, one of the sight gags that was used a lot, that occasionally I thought it was funny, and occasionally I thought it was not funny, and mostly I thought it was overdone, was the physical transformation of characters' faces. And Ichijo did that a lot. Like, she has this out of focus face. Like, her eyes are just drips with no distinction or whatever. But then out of nowhere, you'll have like this ultra detailed picture of this character that seems to come, and they did that a lot in the series, but it seemed to happen more with her than with other particular characters. And again, that was a sight gag that it was occasionally funny, but mostly it was, okay, they did that. You got me going now, doubting about the festival episode, like what they actually ended up doing.
No, I mean, I imagine you're right. Like I said, for me, it's just there. It's more noise.
I feel like they did I feel like they did the typical kind of food stall thing. That seems most likely to me. I remember one of the classes tried unsuccessfully to put everything into one idea, and it just didn't work. I feel like one class did a haunted house. The typical things you expect in those kind of settings. But yeah, that was okay. I'm trying to think if there are any other specific ones that I wanted to bring up. There was the cold episode, and again, I thought it was kind of hilarious. Not hilarious that I had the flu. That was not funny. But I put this show on ice for several days, partly because I was sick. And then I tuned in, and the first thing I get is Becky wearing a face mask because she has the cold. And I just thought that was kind of hilarious timing. But yes, they did do an episode where that part of it actually didn't last very long. They ended up having this weird disease where everyone had words showing up on their head. And Becky's kind of going around like being the Grand Inquisitor for the whole thing. And it's like, but no one's worried about her being a vector for this disease, It's kind of interesting, but and then there was the episode where Becky got really pissed off and pulled out Himiko's cowlick, so she had a complete personality 180 that was solved by just randomly putting stuff in its place.
Chopsticks, I think, was one. Yeah.
Which chopsticks lasted just until Himiko was hungry, and then they came out.
I swear, that character has one of the most... The voice actress that did her voice for the dub made sure that it was the most annoying voice possible. I started to hate the character just simply because of her voice.
I think it was Brittany Kabowski in the English. It was Humiko Orikasa in the Japanese. And yeah, I will admit, she is, even in the Japanese, she is pretty high-pitched. I don't know why I found it amusing. Like, the way she does the whole Maho thing actually worked for me the way it was voiced. I don't know how it sounded in the English, but in the Japanese, it actually amused me a lot. But her normal speaking voice, I will admit, she had a kind of a high-pitched voice, and I could see how a lot of people would be annoyed by that.
I mean, I mean, out of the actresses that I'm seeing here from the English dubs, having watched the English dub, I can state all but Hilary Hagg really went and changed their voices and how they act these days.
Okay.
So Hilary Hagg being playing the role of Rebecca.
Right.
So I still will hear Hilary every now and then with a new series she comes and play or whatnot. So I, knowing how screechy it was, a lot of it was it's ADV and it's early days, well, mid days actually around that point. And they're trying to play younger kids, but they go with high pitched squeal on younger kids, and it's in a series that it's just nothing but constant screaming and arguing back and forth. It grinds. It grinds.
I could imagine. Again, speaking only for the Japanese, Chiwa Saito plays Becky, and she definitely plays her high pitch, but she's playing an 11-year-old, so it makes sense. Satsuki Yukino played Rei. She played her very deep voiced. Like Rei was not high pitched at all. I don't know how it sounds in the English.
Well,
but,
voice acting when it comes to things, for the longest time, people are like, "Oh, we got to play a kid, and we're a 30-year-old. Oh, we're gonna go." When you could just do as equally as a soft tone and just make the word simpler coming out depending on the age.
Which is
now high school kids, you're not that far from having your full-grown adult voice.
Right. And that's kind of where they went with Ichijo. In the Japanese, she's voiced by Ai Nonaka. And Ichijo is very soft and whispery and very quiet.
The voice actress for in English in Ichigo, she was fine. I had no problem with hers.
Right. And we also have Yui Horie as Miyako. Kana Ueda as Momose. We actually had a pretty darn good cast in terms of people who were pretty big names at the time. You got Mai Kadawaki as Behuimi. We got Sayako Ohara as Igarashi. And she, of course, has done tons of great stuff over the years. And Mugihito plays the alien commander. You had some interesting, like I said, pretty well-known folks in these roles. But I'm trying to remember who played the cat. I can't see. But anyway, do we have any other specific? I mean, honestly, again, this is a gag comedy. We could talk about specific gags. Really, at the end of the day, you're not here for plot. You may or may not be here for character. And the gags, as we've established, didn't land for everyone. And even the people they did land for, not all of them land. But I will say, I will reiterate, for people who may doubt what we've said thus far, we, between us, have seen some weird-ass shows.
Oh, God,
yes. This is one of the weirder ones.
Cat Soup still takes a lot.
Oh,
category above that.
Oh, so. Cat Soup is weird as hell. No, but Cat Soup is not a gag comedy. That one.
No. But it's by far on the weird spectrum. I've seen some weird anime in my time. I'm probably Roger. You've probably seen some weirder anime as well.
Well, I'd say my fair share. There's like Azumanga Daio's, and one I can really top of my head I can think is completely.
Azumanga Daio's tame on this one.
I will say it's tame on this one.
The Negima remix is kind of tame to this one. Zetsubo Sensei is tame to this one, but we mentioned Poni Poni Poemi. I'd say that's up there. Excel Saga's not quite here, but it's pretty freaking weird.
What was that one? The one about the angel, the Bakurutsu Chan. No, she had,
I know.
what's his
I know
name
which
for
one you're talking about.
Dokuro-chan?
Yeah.
something. Yeah, Dororo-chan.
Dokuro-chan was not as much gag oriented, but it had a weird premise and it leaned into it. I agree. Cat Soup is up there. Dead Leaves is up there.
That one, was it Dai Moho Toge? Is that right?
Togare, yeah, my Daimoho Togare.
That one's closer to the lines.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
You do know that one. You do know that one.
The magical girl who
Brings vegetables to life to kill themselves.
Is that the one that sings the cheerful "Let's Kill Them All" song? Yes, yes. What is that one?
Brandon had it.
Is it Magical Witch Puni-chan? Is that
no?
the one?
No, that's something
the English one.
Yeah. But the yeah. So point being, we Arakawa Under the Bridge is pretty freaking weird, but there've been some good ones that are higher. Like this one, I don't think was trying to be high art.
This is a 4-panel manga, is what this is. It's kind of like Azumanga Daioh and Lucky Star, where they're 4-panel mangas, or even Bocchi the Rock, because Bocchi the Rock is a 4-panel.
Four Koma manga.
Yeah, 4 Koma.
Yeah. And Lucky Star has its share of weirdness, but it was more of a. Now this one also does share a lot of the staff. I mentioned some of the other shows this staff was involved in. Another show that a lot of this staff was involved in was Hidamari Sketch. That one was a lot more down to earth, but it does have touches of the oddity.
That's another chef production too.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, a lot of the same staff. There were a few. There was a lot of overlap.
But Hidamari is very well toned down compared to comedy.
Oh, absolutely. It has its share of weirdness, but it is not. That's not its reason to exist, if you will. It's more of a cute girls doing cute things art version.
Yeah.
Which is a great show. We need to do that one of these days.
Which one? There's 4.
I know. We could just pick one. Well, technically more, because there's also like the OVA and yeah, it's a bunch. But the point being, I think at this point, honestly, unless anyone has any pressing desire to talk about specifics, we could probably go into production.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, well.
So, as I mentioned before, series director Shin Onuma, Shaft production, although you've got a number of people like Gansis and Alan and Studio Pastoral, Zebek, UFO Table, a bunch of them added into the background of this one. This show is, as we said, it's based on a 4-Koma manga. There are surprising instances of fairly high quality animation, and there are long stretches where they're not even trying to really animate it. They almost make it a joke, the type or level of animation that's used. I guess, Brittany, we'll let you sound off on that since that's your particular area.
Well, I mean, there are points throughout this anime where they change up the animation look or the character looks. I know in the last episode we see the very end, we see the characters go in more realistic drama style that they do throughout the series.
Right.
And it's more detail heavy oriented. The animation, I didn't find really any great flaws, and so I can't really fault it. And you do have moments, and this was a key thing in the day, and it still kind of is a key thing in the day these days, of the sort of Ava effect, where it's you have them just standing there and barely talking. You might even have no lip movement or any motion whatsoever, except for maybe some silly gag off in the distance.
Right.
I mean, it was more. Ava was far more, seeable, because you'd have moments like the damn elevator scene that went on for way too long in that series.
Right. This one does have a moment, I think it's in the final episode, where they kind of throw that in your face because they'll show like little chibi characters of the ones talking, and then they put up just blatant fan service still frames of the characters while they're talking. And it's like they're I guess thumbing their noses at us that they're not actually animating that sequence. And also just throwing
it may
out
have been a budget issue. It may have just been a budget issue. We don't know.
Right.
No fully.
We don't know for sure. You're right. Especially at the end of a series, you never really know. But I'm pretty sure that was also probably a riff on the pervasiveness of fan service. That's my guess, but it could be wrong.
Oh, God.
And then we've got the... I know Roger would have sat these out, but one of the things that I've always loved about the show is the openers and to a degree the enders. And they're very shafty. I'll just say that straight up. I feel like most of the Shaft series I've seen have similar ways of doing openers and enders, but the first one in particular, or the first two in particular, Yellow Vacation and Roulette Theater, which are basically character songs for Himiko and Ichijo. Girl Q, I'm not as sure who that would be a character song for, but I've always kind of assumed Rei or maybe Miyako. But that one's weird. But the other two, I just love the visuals on both of them. I think they're a lot of fun. I love how weird they are. The only problem I have with Yellow Vacation, the song, is that when they drew it out to 4.5 minutes, it really feels drawn out, which is kind of annoying. But generally speaking, what are y'all's thoughts on the music for the... Oh, I should mention the end themes. They do a wide succession of ever-changing themes, which is one of the reasons why the argument that you can just skip the opener and ender and you're not missing anything. Sorry, Roger, that's a BS argument. This show is proof of that because every single episode ender is different. Everyone is different. They change them up.
But do they really need them, though? That's the
Yeah, I
thing.
don't know if they needed them, but they're fun. I like seeing the characters as tarot cards. I thought that was fun.
It's fun at points, but I mean, I think maybe the reason why we got the final episode, kind of like a budget issue, is because they're spending a lot of budget on these openings and endings.
That's probably true.
There's some fairly impressive looking ones. I'll say that.
No, I mean, they look good. I love Roulette as far as the animation in it.
Right.
If I was to say that there were two aspects of this series that I could say I like better than some anime, it's I like all the different styles and experimentation used when animating the series, both in the OP, the openings, the endings, not as much in the endings, and some of the other stuff, like where they had them as RPG characters in a 16-bit game for a short time. Or things like this. I thought that was imaginative, and that still stuck out to me even from my original watch. The other would be the music, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about the RPG episodes. That was kind of
They
cool.
were looking for I think it was either Ichijo or her little sister.
All right. Well, anyone have any further thoughts on production?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh.
Did anyone look at this and think, yeah, this is definitely the same people behind F?
That's identical.
Oh man, I was like, yeah, I don't see it.
The Ichijo Festival box where the entire F series takes place. It's all in that world.
Okay. That makes sense.
I can say, looking on Wikipedia and seeing the cover and seeing what Becky looks like in the manga, versus the anime. I do see that they probably went a little bit towards the manga style, but they kind of still were a bit off from the look. But then, I mean, she's supposed to be a 10-year-old teaching 16, 17-year-olds. And I
don't know.
I feel that was a bit of a reach.
I mean, she is listed repeatedly as 11, but I mean, but you're saying 16,
She
17?
becomes 11. She starts at 10 and gets
this is the
11.
freshman class. So
Okay,
they wouldn't be that old.
15,
They'd be more
16.
like, yeah.
But some of them were stating their age is 16. So
were they?
Yes.
It wouldn't be surprising to me if some of them had failed their grades.
It wouldn't surprise me if Himiko was 20. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, shoot, look at Setsubo Sensei. They even state that pretty much the entire class got held back for failing.
I honestly can believe it. I really can.
Yeah.
There's several anime that I'll sit there and be like, how did they pass high school, or how did they get this level? At least with Bakken Test, we know that they're not succeeding in high school; they're failures.
Right.
Well, that particular class was.
What's that?
In that particular class, there was an upper classes that had better rooms than the loser classes that had basically a four more walls and very little else.
Right.
They lost cardboard boxes.
They had a similar setup actually with Assassination Classroom. They were basically like the rejects of the school.
But they also had picked the students out before the concept of what their full mission was supposed to be. So Assassination Classroom, they had an extra liner of why these kids were together.
This is true. I have to admit that was one that I started and got distracted by life, and I always meant to go back. But
I need to actually watch that one. I think I've seen one episode, and I need to.
I got the full series. I enjoyed it. I haven't watched the full series. I've read the manga though, so it was enjoyable, and I still need to sit down and watch the second half.
Well, I'll get to watch Quasar Stumata finally.
Yeah.
We're all looking forward to it.
The three of us are going to be completely oblivious to it, and Roger, you have experience with it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the reverse in a way. Yeah.
Well, if you like the first series, there's a second series you can enjoy too.
Oh, we're watching the first season at least. If not voting on higher.
Right.
Mm.
Okay, so I'll be trying to do the whole thing once I get started because it's all in one set, and I don't want to finish it once I start. But we'll get there when we get there.
Depends on how I feel. It always depends on how I feel.
Right. So, Brandon, it sounded like you had more to say on the music. Did you?
I thought that I actually liked pretty much all of the music. I enjoyed the soundtrack. It was actually quite fun. But I also, but of course, I really enjoyed the opener and enders. I thought that they were entertaining. Because when you combine it with those animations and the visuals that they use, they're just in general fun to do, and I like that they change them up throughout the series. Not like super often, but definitely more often than other series. So it was definitely worth it.
Yeah. Roger, did you check out any of them, or did you just auto skip?
Well, I did check out the episodes. Yeah, I didn't see the whole thing though.
Okay. All right. So you should give each one of them at least one look. They're good times. But the Girl Q is more weird, but it's still probably the best musically of the three. But at least in my opinion, I love Roulette Theater, but Ai Nonaka is not the strongest singer in the world, so it's you can hear it. But at any rate, I guess that really we're kind of tearing through this one. It's a long series, but we're making quick work of it. But again, I think people at home, you won't really know what you're getting into until you get into it. But it's something that you could probably kind of guess from what we've said if you'd at least want to give it that first look. Now, Brittany, you said you streamed this, right?
No, I don't stream it. I pulled it off of Crunchyroll.
Oh, okay.
But
it was on Crunchyroll.
Yes, it is on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
As of right now. I mean, it's.
I wasn't sure.
Whenever Funny / Sony / whatever they want to call themselves these days.
Right.
To keep it or let it go obscure and drop it. So it's up to them.
If I'm not mistaken, the show physically is way out of print.
Yeah, it's. I looked at prices. You can probably buy the DVDs on eBay for about maybe $200.
What?
You can get the save editions for $40.
Yeah,
So
and the save
editions for $40. Okay.
There is one issue I will bring up with those, and I ran into it. Is that the save editions do have a flaw with it, that the third disc doesn't always work.
Oh.
So, you're playing your own roulette with those save editions.
You know who always has it? You pirates.
Is the save edition the version that had the OVA episode?
Probably.
I don't think it does, but I know that it's got basically four. It's got four. I know that it doesn't. Actually, no, I know it doesn't because I watched the save edition. It's got it all on 4 discs, though.
I know there was very briefly, a box set that included all 26 episodes and an OVA. Unfortunately, the old ADV individual discs, which is what I have, does not have the OVA. Yeah. So the OVA is probably even more of a white whale for those inclined to look for it. I've never actually seen it because it's not on the edition I own.
It's not on Crunchyroll either. I can tell.
Yeah.
The OVA was not obtained by Savory means.
But I will say this: the old individual ADV, it's 6 volumes. It's one of the few that I have little intention of upgrading. I did want that OVA episode, but ADV really went all in with those sets. They have thick booklets. They have all kinds of weird, crazy collector stuff mixed in. It's not necessarily of the highest quality that but as a collector, I'm like, I'm not getting rid of these sets. I'm keeping
the notable set, I mean, I think, Brandon, you got it originally, was the Ichigo box sale.
No. Yeah. I got it 1 volume at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, which is what I have too.
Yeah, and I did not get the volume 1, which had the series box with it. Yeah. And
so
then I eventually slimmed it down.
So there was one with an Ichigo box?
There was one with an Ichigo box. Yeah. I do remember seeing that on sale at the time, back when I had Right Stuff as an affiliate on my website. So,
yeah, if you wanted to pay a lot, you could get volume 1 with the box. Well, that's how they used to do it a lot. Of course, for those of us who have been collecting anime for a while, and for those newbies who have not been collecting it for very long, they used to have this practice where when they were selling the series in individuals, you could buy the series box with the first disc of the series.
Right.
Matter of fact, that's how I got that's how Beck originally came. I remember that one, and I remember lucking out at Movie Stop, and the entire, they sold it for the price of the 1 volume with the art box, and they had the entire series in there. So I remember getting all of Beck in that for $5.
That was cool. Yeah, and one of the reasons I'm hanging on to my Kodacha sets is that I have the art boxes that came with those.
You got the Babbitt boxes?
Yeah, the Babbitt boxes.
I think there's 2 of those art boxes, plus the other thin boxes as well. And the Save Edition, ironically, at one time, the Save Edition was vastly more expensive than the limited editions.
Yeah, yeah.
We have the entire series out.
Well, it's partly because Funimation did not have this show long before they dropped it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's on Crunchyroll because they really did drop it.
It was an acquisition from ADV when ADV split up and became what they are now, which is pretty much anime or High Dive. They're High Dive now, pretty much. They produce the shows on High Dive and release them there, and then release them through what is it? I forget the name. Sentai.
Sentai is the one that does High Dive.
Sentai would be a High Dive, and then the Crunchyroll is Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
Well, Funimation. They like I said, they sold a bunch to Funimation. Right as ADV was going collapse, because ADV was absolutely determined to make a live action Eva, and they never did.
Well,
thank God.
Yeah, now we have really it's the two big ones. You got this ultra big bloated one, Crunchyroll, and then you've got its only real. I mean, you've got other minor competitors still, but really Sentai is the only.
Not necessarily. I mean, the last few months, it's come down more so to Netflix playing the bigger game, Hulu playing the bigger game. Crunchyroll is actually struggling to get studios to release strictly to them. That's why a lot of Netflix shows are currently showing shows that were originally only on Crunchyroll.
I'm just talking physical releases.
Well, I mean that's the thing. Netflix doesn't do a physical release sometimes.
Exactly. That's why I don't even put them in the game, because to me, and the physical collector, it really is Crunchyroll versus Sentai.
But I mean, at the same time,
you've got a few like Discotheque, and Viz is still doing physical.
Viz is still doing it, but I mean, it's primarily stuff like Bleach and Naruto and Sailor Moon for them.
Yeah,
right.
It's almost like David and Goliath. I mean, because if you had ADV, back a very well matured ADV versus Sony, that would have been a more fair fight. But right now, it's like David and Goliath versus Sony Crunchymation versus Sentai. That's kind of moving a little more out of the anime range. They're trying to put more stuff on the online. Discotheque, it's I tell you what, it's an exciting house to buy anime from, but it's of course much smaller catalog. So it's going to be more interesting as time goes on. If are we going to get any premium releases? It's going to be.
I'm sitting here watching for Free Ren second half DVD. They still haven't released that. The anime's been over for over a year now, almost. And why they haven't released the second half of the first season is beyond me.
They've always taken too long to do that. It's one of the reasons I never went in for those split season ones.
Sometimes the split season ones, and of course, they usually, if you wait long enough, like they just finally announced the season. I think season 3 of
Railgun.
Of Railgun, complete series.
I can't wait to get that thing in my hands.
Because and it usually will take, and nowadays it'll take it like a year, sometimes 2 years.
Sometimes they won't even do it. I had to go. I had to go with a fan copy of Onima, which is a manga I loved, and it was released in an anime. It was well loved, sort of moe cutesy anime that came out over a year ago, and they had no Crunchyroll / Funimation, whatever they want to call themselves. They're not releasing it. They're never releasing it on DVD. So I had to go to, a fan release.
Well, look at four interspecies reviewers.
They purposely tried to kill that.
I feel like I feel blessed that I still have my steelbook copy of that. And oddly enough, it's. I thought it was just going to be a really bad series that was basically taboo stuff, but it's actually quite an entertaining series.
That's what people have told me. It's quite entertaining. I'd love to see the rest of it because I started watching it and then they removed it.
Which is another reason why streaming is not always the best thing, because when you when you do that, they can basically erase the series.
Like what happened with what was that one I was looking around for? There was like a series I looked around on Crunchyroll. Yeah, I forget what it was, but it was at the time it was very very common series. It was not there anymore. It was, but then it wasn't. It's just it's a matter of not online. It's a matter of bandwidth. So how many people are clicking on that particular episode? If they're going to keep it on there or not, or is there some sort of licensing fee or something else like that? But you are at the whim of the cloud because you don't have it in your hands. It can just disappear. If you're looking for Battleship Yamato, for instance, and say, hey man, this is a really cool series, I'd like to watch it. It's not there anymore. So you're gonna have to somehow get a series that's going to be ultra expensive on eBay if it's oop, or you get lucky and have a re-release of it.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this. I mean, it's not just DVD; it's also manga. I mean, I'm trying here to get Ron the One Half manga. It's still hard to get some of the issues. I mean, I literally just bought 2 issues. I think I had to pay $40 between the 2 of them. And the books were only like $10 normally.
Yeah, or less. Yeah, because Ron the One Half had several iterations from Viz.
I do miss the fact that I have mine in so many different formats because I started collecting it in the comic book format.
Oh yeah.
People are selling those comic books with like right and left. It's what frustrates me trying to find original first copies of the books. Because I get, here's 18 of B of. I was like, no, give me the book.
Yeah, it was what it was. I used to say like set 1, volume 1, so it wouldn't make any sense what order it went through. So you would have to try to get them all and then try to make some sense out of the order.
And then there's Dark Horse with the damn freaking Oh My Goddess release, which is like we have no naming order whatsoever. We're just gonna release it with some strange title.
A long one. So it's like they've been publishing that thing for decades.
Yeah.
So they actually redid it a couple times as to say, let's start all over again with the number 1 and this omnibus format and normal format and deluxe format.
I can honestly say I have 8 volumes of the Oh My Goddess from Dark Horse, and I don't know if there's another volume for me to pick up because I can't find it because it's not listed by 1, 2, 3 like that. They just did a naming scheme, and it's just so horrible.
Come to think of it, Inuyasha is one that I had like that in the comic book format, and again, that's in a dual format too because that one started in the comic book format, and I remember that because it was a big deal at the time. Hey, it's on a simul release in the States, manga wise.
That's one. I think it's like either the first one, or if not one of the first ones. If not, it was simultaneously released in Japan as it was in America.
And that lasted all of like 5 seconds. And
and then Viz fell behind on it, and Viz turned to actually releasing Shonen Jump as a book. And then they dropped out of that, I think, 5 years into it, and just did their website release, which honestly, as a user, it's far better because I'm getting the issues the same day as they get released officially. So,
yeah, it's weird. I'm not sure. It's in the older days, I do kind of miss having all the different studios and Right Stuff being an independent store and all of this stuff. But this is modern times. They got to do what they got to do to survive, which is release 90% isekai and all the streaming.
My God, I am so sick of isekai. I really am. Yeah, well, it apparently has not died down very much. That's from
no. And Brandon, you're at fault for the one isekai I'm watching this season.
SAO. Thank God for that. Right.
No, not SAO. Brandon got me into watching the damn father isekai this season.
I still haven't watched it, but I was intrigued by it.
Some people say Shangri-La is isekai, but considering he goes in and out of the game and they switch around the games, I can't call it an isekai. It's just they do a really good job of that series. But yeah, it's weird. And it's off topic, so let's get back to that.
Yeah, I was going to say we got a little far field there, but
we were on what? Favorite scenes, favorite characters.
yeah. Let's say we'll do favorite scene, favorite character, or if you rather say moment or episode or whatever, and then what would be a 4 series that we haven't covered yet that would be near the top of your list? And I guess we'll start with you, Roger.
Let's see. Favorite character. I'll probably have to go with Rebecca. I think she is the one that gave me the most amount of chuckles for saying I'm not a kid. To do herself as a MIT graduate at 10 or 11. Hiding behind the curtains and being kind of wacky. The other one I like, or believe it or not, I like the interaction between the cat and the rabbit. The rabbit had some sort of apprehension towards the soda machines, and the cat would open it up and say, "You want the warm?" it did get some good chuckles out of me.
Okay. All right. And is there a 4 series that you are hoping that we'll get to maybe sooner than later?
Well, I do like Azumanga. I mean, I do like what was that other one?
Lucky Star.
It's escaping me right now. Lucky Star.
Yeah.
Lucky Star probably one I would probably like to see the most. But that's a long series, man.
Yeah.
It's a 26 episode. It's like what we did today.
Yeah.
I know I just bought it, so I'm eager to, watch that one again. It's been a while.
That's another one that's taking up a lot more space on my shelf than it needs to, because I have the sets they did for the first 5 volumes. They kind of skipped out on doing them for volume 6 in the OVA, but I don't know. I might get the more condensed one eventually, but I'm definitely keeping those big sets. But even though they made them really shitty so that when you open, except for the first one, if you open 2 through 5, you ruin the boxes. It's very annoying.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I hate that. So annoying. But anyway, all right, how about you, Brittany?
Favorite scene, I don't really think I have one in particular, other than probably having Ichigo's sister first appear before, and I gotta look up his name here, Tsugi, and basically be like falling. She lifting up. She talks through her sketchbook, and seeing her do her little sketchbooks things. I found that cute, and a little chuckle came out from that. Favorite character, honestly, I don't think I have one other than probably the rabbit. Simply because, well, the old man gets to me too. I did enjoy him rambling on, because that I do like seeing a doddering old man try and teach a class. But Japan would be that way, where they would do that, because there's no such thing as retirement in Japan.
Nope.
Yep.
So, the 4-panel. While I would like to say Lucky Star because it's on the list, or Azumanga Daioh, I know it's really early. I wouldn't mind seeing the reactions from you all from Bocchi the Rock, honestly.
I was reading about the movies for that today. Apparently, they're supposed to be really good, but
they haven't done a movie that, to my knowledge. Not yet.
They apparently did part 1 of 2 last year. And
okay, that's news to me.
Yeah.
But then I just found out today that they're actually doing a movie this time for Demon Slayer. So, instead, I literally had to ask them, was like, is this going to be another anime release, or is this going to be an actual movie? They're like, oh, it's an actual movie this time.
All right. And Brandon, how about you?
Well, my favorite character is God, which and my favorite moment would be when they enter into the Ichijo festival and evict God from the shrine. I don't know why that makes me laugh, but for some reason it does, and I don't. And there are a few jokes that have made me chuckle here and there throughout the series, but that was the one that I still remember as. I don't know why I find it funny, but I do. I just find it hilarious. So I will give that one. And
I believe it was actually his brother that was in the festival.
brother,
right?
yeah,
The younger brother. Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But as far as the that type of series, I mean, Azumanga Daioh is definitely in my high end. It's definitely in my short list of stuff I wouldn't mind covering for my birthday in June. But among other things, like Ping Pong Club.
God.
God.
But also another one that's a longer one that we could that is on our list for a long series run, which is Hidamari's Sketch, which is a fun one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, for me, obviously Ichijo is my favorite character. One could argue that the Ichijo Festival itself is a character, and it does amuse me. And yes, God is very amusing to me. But Ichijo is definitely my favorite. As far as favorite scenes, that's a little harder to call. Brittany reminded me of two that I didn't mention yet that are worth mentioning. When I created Blaine, I was very proud of the bra of holding. And that was specifically inspired by the part where we first meet Ichijo's sister, who lives in her shirt, apparently. She just reaches in, yanks her out, just like, and it's like God knows what else is in there. But one of my favorite sight gags involved the old man. And it was an episode we didn't really talk about where a TV crew was going around trying to interview the different classes. And they first go into his classroom and the broadcaster makes some sort of crack about, oh man, he's at death's door. And then Serizawa is dressed as the Grim Reaper peeking out from the curtain over his shoulder. And she just freaked out and fled the school like the reporter did. And I thought that was hilarious. I was just like, but yeah, I've got to agree. Evicting one of the cats turns out to be at the center of the Ichijo Festival was pretty hilarious to me. There were moments scattered throughout the series. Like I said, this is a show that's like a gag, 5 gags a minute, more than that in some cases. And some of them were painful duds, but a lot of them hit. There were a lot of things I thought were hilarious. So I'm not 100% sure I could pick my number one favorite, but those are a few that come to mind. The part where they realize that a mushroom has replaced Himiko's cowlick, that whole plot line got me some chuckles. Some of the antics of the alien captain, some of those were pretty amusing to me. There's a lot. As far as the 4-Koma series, y'all have said most of the ones I was thinking about. I fully agree. Azumanga Daioh, Lucky Star, Hidamari Sketch, absolutely would love to hit those. But the big one that leaps first and foremost to mind that surprisingly no one mentioned was K-On! I really look forward to us hitting K-On! One of these days. Although that is one that you kind of need to... You really kind of have to hit the both seasons and the movie because it is all one story.
That should be in our long series if we have it.
That's in the
Right.
lineup to
Right.
of random ones to hit.
Can't
the
imagine
first
too many
series-
K numbers or K letter ones.
Right. There's a fair number of those, but probably not as many as S's.
Well, definitely not as many as S's. I'll put my money on that one.
Right. Yeah. There's still a few. There's still definitely a few. But anyway, I guess that probably about does. Or does anyone have any final thoughts on Pani Pani Dash?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? You about to say something, Roger?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Well, I guess if that's the case, we'll hand it back to you, Brandon.
Well, again, thank you all for coming in for this episode of Anime Anticlimax. Next, or this month's episode, I should say, we are finally getting into our kind of running theme, which will run for a little bit because it'll take probably several years to get it right, which is our theming of trying to tackle long series, and we're trying to figure out how we can do that. And we decided that we would just we'd make a list and we would tackle them in small bites. And if we reach the end of the end of a review of that bite of the series, we want to take another bite of the apple, we will. If we don't, we won't, and we'll move on. And this particular tasty bite will be Quasar of Stigmata, which, as a whole, the series is definitely too long to do in one go. But we're going to be hitting season 1 at the end of the month, and if we like it enough, or just want to finish the darn thing, we'll vote as to whether to do season 2 in April. So something for us all to enjoy, I guess. I know. For me, the only reason why I originally got the series is I wanted a Q lettered series because I was trying to have an anime with the starting letter of every letter of the alphabet.
Yes, and for you kiddies out there, this show's been out a lot longer than Quintessential Quintuplets.
Yes, I have actually multiple Q series now. So
yeah, I think it was between
the
this one.
Quintuplets, though, is a very good series. I will say that.
I think it was between this one and Queensblade at the time, wasn't it?
yeah, there weren't many. I mean, you got Queen Esmeralda, what is it? Queen Esmeralda, but that is like a very short OVA.
Yeah.
That doesn't even have an end as far as physical volumes.
Right.
So yeah, no. But with that being said, I hope you all have enjoyed this. Hit that like and subscribe. And of course, you should be checking out other people and their stuff that's going on. Brittany has her own channel and a lot of stuff going on, as well as various comics and Patreon-ish antics.
Heated topics. Apparently, one of my videos is getting a little bit more attention. That was me discussing about everybody being wrong about trans issues.
See, there you go. So if you want to check it out, you should check it out. Anything else that's coming up that you want people to be aware of?
We've been on a break for last week, but Demon Blade and Witchin are both coming back. I have 2 music videos I'm working on simultaneously as well, out of the new music we have. And we have we're going to finish up Final Fantasy Rebirth. I don't know if we're going to continue too much with the Pirate Yakuza, though, because there's not much interest in it. So,
is it as fun as the other Yakuza?
Oh, it's hilarious. It's absolutely freaking funny. But I guess people aren't watching it, so
move on to something more fun.
Yeah, and I am doing old school games on Sundays when I'm well enough. Unfortunately, I've been sick this past week because of my health issues. But yeah, we're going to complete Chrono Trigger soon.
So let's see. Yeah, I've seen a lot of old as new recently because I've been I've been trying to complete the Dragon Quest 3 2D 3D because Suikoden comes out this weekend. The re-release of 1
Why'd
and
you
2.
tell me that? Why'd you tell me? Now I want to get the freaking Suikoden. I didn't even know it was coming out.
Because they did some 2D 3D on that as well, so I'm looking forward to that. That one and the Lunar one. Lunar is getting a Lunar 1 and 2.
Lunar's getting a full-on repolish.
It's going to be actually not as big a one as the as Suikoden is getting, apparently.
Well, considering this is going to be the third repolish for Lunar, it's another big repolish.
It's mostly a redo of the PlayStation version.
Yeah.
Which that complete collection is coming out, so it's actually coming back into the much easier to play space in April.
And that's actually both games in one.
Yep,
from what I understand. So
which is good. Lunar 1 and 2 were very good games, and I'm glad to see them back in circulation. Working Designs did amazing stuff.
Yep.
Well, they still do amazing stuff.
Huh?
They freaking did Persona 5.
Never heard of it.
No. Ignore that one series. Yep.
But if you want to support, of course, Roger, there's the Animazing on Facebook. If you can get in, you should, because it's a great group. For the most part, we managed to stay on task and are ever evolving. But I mostly share my anime update videos on that. I sometimes share it on my regular Facebook, but I always share it on the Animazing Facebook.
Thank you, SeptumSin. We definitely consider it as a video channel, so it's nice to have that.
So, but yes, and y'all, and don't they have their own YouTube over there?
For us, yeah, we do have the Anime Circle chat, where we talk about numerous kind of things, everything from the start of anime to how do you dust off statues and figures, and it's about everything. If you're looking for 2 to 3 hours of just talk about collectors and fans, just talking about what they want to talk about, and that's the Animazing Circle chat is up your alley.
I should probably sell off the 2 statues I don't really care for that I got.
You're welcome to do so. We have a very good store.
So with that, of course, well, Jake, you what you're doing is basically what I'm doing on this channel for the time being, but we are hoping to have on this channel some reviews coming out. Matter of fact, tomorrow, I'm actually keeping up with the once a week review fairly decently. So we'll actually have Pickleball Exorcist there, and I had some interesting news on my front. The second feature-length film that I've directed, Amityville Webcam, somebody actually did a review of it.
Oh wow! Congratulations!
Yeah,
nice.
It's gotten a couple of reviews on Letterboxd now, but it's got its first video review by somebody who was talking about how terrible it was, but that's perfectly fine. It is a horrible movie. but it's my horrible movie, and I've always been one to say that even a negative review is still great publicity. Matter of fact, if I had gotten somebody like Nostalgia Critic talking trashing about it, it would actually increase sales like tenfold.
Yeah. After all, everybody wanted to watch the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes for some reason.
I love that movie, but the sequels are better than the original, but it does have a feel to it, much like Hardware Wars, and it's like Hardware Wars on a bigger scale.
I watched that during my childhood, along with the Wizard of Speed and Time.
That's one I think that was covered on the alternate channel. Inside Movies Galore did that one.
Oh wow!
And it was an interesting watch. That's how I got to see it the first time. So yeah, some fun things, definitely. But I thank you all again for coming out on the discussion. I guess we won't see you, Roger, for our next discussion, but maybe we'll catch you in May.
It's be difficult for me to get through the next one. I think it's the Quasar thing. It's going to be difficult. Yeah.
You mean by April, maybe?
Well, depends.
March.
See what happens on that one.
It depends on if we cover the second.
Yeah, if we cover the second half, it won't be. But
yeah,
I am curious as to what you dislike about it, and I guess we'll figure it out.
Well, you'll find out soon enough. So,
I know I'll be watching it.
Tune in no matter what, just to see you guys' reaction. So,
Right.
Well, as they say, as Mario would say.
And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die. Please.
Yes.
And with that, I think we can end tonight's stream.
All right.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
thank you.
Night.